therapy is one more thing which people have a lot of stigma around,
Yes.
saying we should not go to therapy. Spiritual people don't need any therapy. Did the yogis and all these sages, did they go through therapy? Just sometimes psychological disturbances or spiritual emergency issues, and so people need to really look at it is just calming the mind. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah. Well, so again, I want to be very clear, because this makes me, I know, a sort of odd partisan, but therapy is a very, very large umbrella, and under therapy, there's a lot of things that are very, very dissimilar, and they're all classed as therapy. But in particular, psychoanalysis, which requires, in my opinion, the most rigorous kind of training of any of the therapies, and it is much more subtle and is much more less prescriptive, less instrumental, right? Many of the other therapies are trying to give you like quick fixes, like let me fix you. Whereas analysis is different, because analysis is like, no. How can we fix it when we don't even know what the problem is? We don't really know what the problem is.
Yeah, like
right?
a Freudian way of looking at staying with the questions.
That's right. And it's even called Freudian, but the reality is, there has been enormous progress since Freud. Freud is still very important in many ways, but the notions of the unconscious, the notions of something like what's called transference, which is the notion that you interact with new people in ways that are highly conditioned by the ways that you saw and dealt with significant people from your childhood, and later on. The notions of resistance, like the idea that though there's a part of you that wants to change, there's a part of you that does not want to change. That's also directly applicable to the spiritual search. And the subtlety, the psychoanalytic community, it's not just these rules and principles, but the kinds of people that tend to be attracted to become analysts, and the community they've built up, the language they have of talking about subjective experience is among the most sophisticated you'll find in the world about anything. So the sheer layered understanding of the mind, which is so complicated, right? But it's not complicated in the way that neurologists find it complicated. It's complicated in the subjective experience sense, right? What's going on between two people, right? All kinds of things that can barely be put into words is the answer. And the attempt to contend with these mysterious, enigmatic forces that arise in relationship, and to open them up or to harness them. You don't even know the verb to use, but this is what the psychoanalysts have been contending with for more than a century. And so you might say the lineage of analysts has created this extraordinarily rich dialogue. And it is that dialogue and lineage and the way of being with people that has been passed down from analyst to analyst, and that makes them a very, very special community. So, yeah, I want to put a shout out, because I think the reality, psychoanalysts, it isn't known. People are like, oh yeah, I went to therapy, didn't help that much. They don't realize there's a huge difference between therapy and analysis, and the ways that those people are trained. And
so when you talk about lineage and in terms of analysis, so
how does that work?
Can you give me a little bit more detail in that? And
Well, because every analyst who goes to an institute anyway, which is almost all of them, themselves is required to undergo what's called a training analysis. So in the as part of their training, they have to be analyzed. And so in that process of being analyzed, they're learning a lot about themselves, but they're also digesting a certain kind of way of being with people. They're modeling in a way themselves after their own analyst. And many of these people also have had analysis before the training analysis, will have analysis after the training analysis, often with other people. They have a series of supervisors who are all brilliant usually, because in order to be an analyst, again, the requirements are very high in terms of, generally tend to be very high in terms of intelligence and emotional intelligence. So not to say, by the way, I don't want to give the wrong impression that every analyst is great, that all analysis is a magic cure. Nothing like that. It's a long, long process. It takes a lot of energy and effort. There are bad matches between analyst and patient. There are poor analysts. All those things exist. But, I just wanted to put a shout out, because, again, it's just not very well known, and it's out of fashion. And people have very, very out of date views of what analysis is. Oh yeah, it's just Freud. It's just only about like, it's all sex. It's just saying, you want to have sex with your mother if or whatever it is. It's very, very extremely oversimplified. Even Freud, by the way, is extremely oversimplified. Freud was a brilliant thinker. He wasn't always right, but he was genius. And so, but the reality is things have come very, very long way since him. And analysis today is quite different than what he would have, than what he said.